XYBERJAE here, and a lot of you may have heard the news about Maduro, the brutal dictator, drug cartel, narco-terrorist, tyranny monster, has been captured by the U.S. military. Thanks, President Trump. Now the Venezuelans feel free. A lot of them here are happy. However, we have the liberal left protesting that they want Maduro out, screaming and chanting, let him out, let him free, get him out. But a lot of them are not even Venezuelan, nor have ever heard of him or have been to Venezuela. I know them personally, and they are happy. Most were never Trump supporters. Now they are. Most didn't like me because I like Trump. But now, they're okay with me. Moving forward, one of the things that Trump did say a few months back was that he didn't want to BS the people of America because we have social media and AI. And we have technology in the palm of our hands. And he said, why BS the people? Let's just tell them the truth. Yeah, we're in there for the oil. But why? Is it to bring down the gas prices? Is it to give it to the country the size of New Jersey to power their next Silicon Valley 2.0? Because they don't have a lot of resources. So, I came across this video with Myron Gaines. You'll like this one. He actually goes over in detail as to how this all started, the Petro Dollar, which they're not talking about, silver, all of that. It's all connected as to why they want the oil. It's not just to bring down gas prices and pump the economy, which does help, I admit. There's close to $18 trillion worth of oil barrels. But it's not about the drugs. It's more than that. Sure, it's a big part of it if you could prevent it and prevent deaths. I agree. We need less of that on the streets. But the government doesn't care. If they wanted to end it, they could do it yesterday. So here's the true reason as to why we went into Venezuela. Remember, pay attention. It's all connected.
How you doing? I want to hear your take on this invasion of Venezuela, kidnapping President Maduro, or the president of Venezuela. They say he's a dictator. Are you pro-war, anti-war? What's your position? Because most of the right, they're very happy about this, and it's surprising to me.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, right? I don't really... I'm looking at, like, okay, as far as my personal position on it, I'm indifferent to it, right? Like, I don't like wars, I don't like conflict. But what I will say is that first we got to talk about, because I did a whole thing on this, right? So, and I covered it objectively. What they tell people, or what they told, what the government or the media is being told, or telling us rather, is that we are here to liberate the Venezuelan people. We're here to get rid of a violent dictator. You know, this is the greatest military operation ever. Blah blah blah. But they're not really going into like the economic reasons why we're doing what we're doing. And
so remember, we already know why. But again, there's always more to that. There's always more resources. There's always more to it for the long run. It's always about the long run, not for the now. The now would be costly. We would go broke. This doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. We already know that. The oil companies and the military will take over. We know that. But he's about to go over the why.
the the real reason that we went in there and did what we did. Now people say, oh, it's for oil, but it goes deeper than just for oil. It's also because the petrodollar is pretty much like dead. Okay, so it's like it's on life support, right? Last year, and I was like one of the only people that reported on this. Saudi Arabia chose to not renew the deal that they had done with us back from the 70s, where we would use the petrodollar to back our dollar, right? Essentially. So we got off the gold standard and we used the petrodollar as one of the main reasons to back our dollar, which makes us reserve currency because everyone has to do their deals in oil when they deal with the Saudi royal family in dollars. Well, now they're accepting other forms of currency to include BRICS countries. So they haven't renewed that agreement that we struck with them in the 1970s, right? Well, that's a big problem for us because our dollar is pretty much backed by that. It's the main reason why we're able to print all this currency with no consequence, right? Yeah, we get some inflation, but we're the reserve currency, so it gives us a lot of leverage, and this is why America's been able to be so prosperous for so long. So the petrodollar is on life support. Then also another important thing to understand is that we have.
So we're on a petrodollar standard.
Yes, it's a big reason why our dollar is so strong is because of the petrodollar. Yeah.
So the Fed relies upon oil.
That's a component to it. Yes, and what I'm saying is Saudi Arabia last year chose to not renew, and it didn't hit the news cycle at all. Like I was one of the only people that talked about it on Twitter and mentioned it because I knew right then and there, and I talked about this first in 2023, and then I talked about it in 2024, but no one cared because it was an election year. It was June.
So it's been ever since the gold standard was removed in what was it, the 70s?
70s. Nixon struck a deal with Saudi Arabia to basically make them do all their oil sales in U.S. dollars, and that forces other countries to keep U.S. dollars to buy oil because everyone needs oil.
No, but you're not saying that the U.S. dollar is based on petro completely, because they say that the Fed is based on nothing and they can print more money. How does the petro dollar differ from the Fed?
No, well, what I'm saying is that one of the reasons why us printing money, ridiculously, and we don't deal with consequences for it, is because there's a need for our dollars all across the world to purchase oil. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, fair. So, and I won't get more complicated than that, but like that was a big deal that we had that made our currency very strong, right? Last year, Saudi Arabia decided to not honor that deal anymore, right? Where they're not doing all their transactions in dollars like they used to do. That obviously is going to weaken our dollar to a degree. Now, the other problem here, and this happened last year, no one reported on it, right? The other problem is that we have petroleum reserves. Of these petroleum reserves, we've been using it the past couple of years under the Biden administration into the Trump administration, and we're running low with these petroleum reserves. These petroleum reserves are supposed to only be used in times of war or emergencies. But we know how politicians are. They want votes, they don't want to have low approval ratings, etc. So they started to slowly release these barrels of oil into the market to keep gas prices stable. Remember when everyone was complaining about milk and eggs and everything else like that being too expensive? They were releasing this oil from our reserves the whole time. So we got two things against us that are going bad. We got the petrodollar weak, and we're using our reserves. The third thing, which was the red line, which is why we actually invaded, which I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is Venezuela was gearing up to start accepting BRICS currency, led by the yuan with the Chinese, right?
Which is what they were doing that day, the same day Maduro was meeting with the Chinese in order to deal oil and yuan.
It could have been anything, but we do know that the Chinese absolutely, and Venezuela is going to basically become a BRICS country. And the problem with that is that it's on our hemisphere, and by being a BRICS country, that would challenge our hegemon as the reserve currency, and it would hurt our position with our dollar. Anytime a dictator or anybody threatens our dollar, just like they did with Gaddafi, they kill him. So what happened with Maduro was reserves are low, petrodollar life support. He wants to go ahead and start accepting a BRICS currency instead of U.S. dollars for the oil. So the U.S. is like, okay, Venezuela has the highest reserves. Oh, and then another thing also. Now, some people in the chat are going to say, oh, Myron, well, we have our own oil in America. Why did we need to invade? What are you talking about? Well, here's the difference. The shale oil that we have here is not the nice, black, thick oil, that Venezuela and Saudi Arabia have. And the thing is that our entire oil infrastructure, our refineries in America, are based on that type of oil that we get from the Saudis and the oil that Venezuela has. So the oil that we have is expensive to deal with and refine, and our infrastructure basically needs that type of oil in Venezuela and Saudi to work. Now, what we could do. Sorry, I was gonna say something about that. But yeah, so those are all these factors led into why they invaded. Now, when Trump came into office, right, one of the first things he did was he labeled Tren de Araguas as a terrorist organization. He did that on purpose. The reason why he did that was because if you label a drug trafficking organization as an FTO or a foreign terrorist organization, you now can use military assets and the intelligence community, right, to go after that organization. So what he basically did was he said, okay, this guy.
See what I mean? I know it's a lot. But sometimes labeling something as a terrorist organization, radical, domestic, foreign, you can do a lot more things. You can do a lot of things. Things that you want to do or need to do.
Duro and his entire gang, they're Al Qaeda now. They went from criminals to enemy combatants. That's why we have the justification to these kinetic strikes on boats, right? And they were striking these boats, they were moving aircraft carriers, they were mobilizing all these military assets, etc. They needed an excuse to go in there to take him, so what did they do? Well, we have an arrest warrant for him, we could go pick him up. Well, here's the part about that why I know that that's bullshit. They indicted him 6 years ago, okay? They indicted him 6 years ago, they didn't do anything, and not only did they indict him 6 years ago, and they indicted him under Trump 1. Trump was in office when he got indicted the first time in early 2020. So what changed this time? Well, what changed this time is that the Saudis dropped the Petro Dollar, like I told you last year. And last year when Saudi Arabia dropped the Petro Dollar as exclusive, I knew that at some point we were going to do some crazy shit to secure more oil, especially since we've been using reserves. It took 2 years to happen, but my prophecy came fulfilled. So
why are you not against
well, I'm
what happened in
explaining.
Venezuela?
It's very important.
It sounds like you are.
No, I'm explaining to you why they did it. I'm telling you why they did it.
Do you agree with this or no? Do you think this is good?
We're gonna pay for it later.
Yeah, your camera's crazy. Okay, so you see, we're gonna pay for it in a bad way. Okay, yeah. And why are you not against it? Sounds like you're against.
We're gonna pay for it later.
Pay for it how and when?
So this is how we're gonna pay for it. Basically, right? We tell all these other countries, hey, you can't violate people's sovereignty. We wagged our finger at Putin, telling him, you can't invade Ukraine, you can't do X, Y, Z, blah blah blah. But we went ahead and did that. And back in 2007, Putin delivered a speech talking about a multipolar world, right? That it's inevitable and it's coming. And that's where we are now. And the United States invading Venezuela, though in the short term, we're going to have access to some resources, the stock market might do better, blah, blah, blah. This is going to hurt us in the long run because now the international community understands that if you challenge the US dollar, right, you're putting a target on your back. So countries that were on the fence about going into BRICS or countries that were thinking about going to BRICS, they're absolutely going to deal with BRICS more because they don't want to be under the US dollar system that the United States has. And we've pushed a lot of people away that might have wanted to work with us because we've just demonstrated here, if you don't work with us, we're going to invade you and take your resources anyway. So let's say the people in BRICS, right, they're moving at...
See, that's the problem. A lot of these countries are going to say, see, they're proving us right all the time. America. If we keep going this route, a lot of countries are going to hate us and ban against us.
20 miles per hour, we've doubled the speed. Now they're going to move at 40 to 50 miles per hour. We've basically accelerated the the opposition to our dollar. And now they have, and most importantly, here's the big one. Now they're justified in pushing out BRICS. We've basically vindicated Putin and Xi Jinping when they make their speeches and call us hypocrites and say, you need to get off the US dollar system because this is what they do. And we proved them right with invading Venezuela. So long term, we are going to pay for this. We are.
So who do we prove right by invading Venezuela?
Our adversaries, Putin and Ping especially, because they warned about this. They warned that being under the U.S. dollar, you think you're safe, but you're really not. And we just demonstrated how not working with us will lead to you being toppled, dethroned, etc.
Okay, so what's their standard? If we're using the Petro Dollar, what are
they use
Chinese
BRICS,
and Russian?
BRICS.
Okay, but how do you explain what is BRICS based on?
It's basically them bringing all their currencies together to challenge the reserve currency status of the United States.
Okay.
They basically what they want is they don't want the U.S. dollar to be the premier
on top
currency. Yeah. Because that is where our power comes from. That's what the important thing people need to know is that our reserve currency status is why we are so prosperous and so powerful and why we can keep printing money and we don't deal with consequences for it.
It sounds like you're, if you want to hear my analysis, it sounds like you're against this completely, but there's also so many people watching your stream that are very happy about the invasion, so you don't want to divide. But
no,
if you're saying we're gonna pay this,
I don't like it. I told you, I just told you last year, right? Last year,
you're against what happened.
Yeah, I think long term this is going to hurt us. Short term, it's going to benefit us, but I think long term this will absolutely hurt us in the international community. Yeah, I think that this will hurt us.
So can I ask you a real question? Why have you not been that vocal about how damaging this is going to be for our country?
I literally talked about. Well, I mean, I gave the analysis on it yesterday, but I don't know. I was going to actually talk about it today, but then you called me, so I was like, all right, well, I guess we can talk about it now. I was going to talk about it today because I wanted to, because the thing is that I wanted to look at all the facts, right? When it first happened, we didn't know any details of what the hell happened. So I was like, all right, let me see how they went about this and everything else like that. that. And then after I did my research and all this other stuff, then I looked at, okay, let me, I'll do a video on this. And then that's when I filmed my video yesterday, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I went over, you know, the good was they did a military operation. Obviously, they were able to, you know, show the force of the U.S. government, etc. Oh, another thing also that was weird about this, dude, using those kind of resources to pick up someone for a drug trafficking warrant is fucking nuts. I've worked with the DEA. Bro, they can't even get like $1,000 to $2,000 to fly to California to pick up a drug trafficker. But these dudes spent like $1 billion.
Yeah, how much did that operation cost?
Yeah, dude, hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion or more, easily.
Oh wow.
Easily to move all those military assets to pick up one guy. Oh yeah, dude, it was extremely expensive, and like they would never do that in other situations. But they used the ruse of a law enforcement operation to justify going in there. That's why I don't know if you saw the press conference between Trump and Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I saw the whole press conference. It was brutal. They barely mentioned cocaine. They essentially said it's about the oil. Well, and you want oil? Yeah, we're gonna run Venezuela.
Yeah, they did, but they didn't go further and say why they want the oil. Like I think people know that it's about the oil, but no one knows about, you know, us losing the the petrodollar being weak right now. No one knows really or talks too much about the petroleum reserves. These are the real reasons why, right? Because
do you think that it's a play to potentially invade Iran? Because they're saying if we were to invade it, the reason that they're so angry that the EU and other countries are saying don't invade Iran, don't bomb, is because they can close the Strait of Hormuz and that they provide oil for most of Europe. And so it's going to destroy the world economy, right? Iran's play right now is if you attack us, we're going to cut off our oil supply. And so to supplement that chess move, we're going to get an oil reserve in Venezuela.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I talked about that yesterday too. So the other reason why this is important, especially strategically right now, is we know that a war with Israel and Iran is absolutely going to be imminent, right? So like you said with the Strait of Hormuz, something like 30% of the world's oil goes through that little strait right there, and Iran can obviously shut it down. So by having this oil or access to this oil in Venezuela, that would mitigate the damage that might potentially come from there. Because I think with this next war between Israel and Iran, is one of them is going to have to, someone's not going to walk away from it. One of those countries is going to have to take an L and be done permanently. So the United States and Israel, knowing that this is going to probably be the last war, that's another reason why I think also strategically speaking, they need to secure this oil as well, and they had to use the law enforcement operation to do it. If you notice from the press conference, Rubio and the commander kept saying, we went ahead and grabbed the indicted individuals. As they were grabbed, we had them read their Miranda rights. They had to do all this and make it a law enforcement operation so that
to justify spending billions of dollars on the operation. And if you read the 25-page indictment, I read it. There was no mention of fentanyl. That was kind of a conspiracy. Your AI account was crazy. There was no mention of fentanyl. It was just cocaine and machine guns. That's it. Yeah. So if there's just coke and machine guns, then all of Latin America.
Well, the other thing too, also, you know, just being honest here, Venezuela is not like if you want to talk about drug trafficking and labeling people narco terrorists or whatever, like they're like fifth on the list, bro. Like there's way more dangerous drug trafficking organizations than the guys based in Venezuela. But that was a strategic Trump did that for a strategic purpose to justify using the intel community and the military to go get this guy picked up, because Mexico is actually the biggest, you know, drug threat if we want to talk about drugs strictly. Something like 50 to 60% of the United States drugs come in through the southwest border. Maritime smuggling is no longer a viable way to drug traffic. It's not 1980 anymore.
Yeah, they're pretty transparent about it. You can tell Hegseth, Rubio, Trump, they don't care about the coke or anything else about Maduro. They don't care about the dictator. They don't care. They're like, all the Trump retards, they're like, the Venezuelans are happy. Do you think that they care about the happiness of Venezuelans? No, it's not important whatsoever.
They don't. Another thing also is like, yeah, we know it's for the oil, but no one is talking about why. No one's talking about the Saudis not, you know, honoring the Petro Dollar deal that we struck in the 70s. No one's talking about our petroleum reserves being extremely low. No one's talking about...
Can you explain what is the Saudi connection to? Saudi was the country who started BRICS?
No. So back in the 1970s, Nixon struck a deal with the royal family.
End of the gold standard.
And ended the gold standard, and now we needed to back our dollars to something else. So what we did was we basically told the family, we will protect you guys because you know this because you understand this part of the world. The Muslim world tends to be a little volatile sometimes. Most of these countries are run by monarchies, dictatorships, etc. So the biggest fear of any Arab ruler is always being overthrown, right? So what the U.S. government told them was, we will protect you and ensure that you guys stay in power, but you need to do all your oil transactions in U.S. dollars. Cool. So we give them protection, they do their deals in U.S. dollars. This props up our dollar. This keeps our dollar strong because everyone.
It's like the mafia. It's like extortion.
That's exactly
it's the same
what it is.
mafia tactic.
That's exactly what it is. And then last year, and this is why it's so big, in June of 2024, Saudi Arabia said we are not going to do all our deals in U.S. dollars anymore. And I knew right then and there this is going to lead to problems. So us invading Venezuela the way that we did, that was inevitable as soon as the Petro Dollar started to get weaker. And then you add on to that the petroleum reserves are low, right? It was inevitable. But Trump and these guys were talking about
What are the reasons? Yeah, because they don't want to be honest about the operation. They need to morally justify it with cocaine and machine guns and communism. So why is the petro dollar so low right now? Is the lack of oil reserves, or is there another reason?
BRICS is rising up in power, and the Saudis are playing both sides. Another thing too, I'll tell you with the Saudis. So the Saudis, though they've worked with us for a very long time, they understand that we are more loyal to Israel than we are to them. So actually, the day before, I think it was the day before Charlie Kirk got assassinated. You remember when the Israelis bombed Qatar?
Yes.
So
our military base in Qatar.
No, they bombed a location where they thought Hamas leaders were going to meet.
Right, which is our ally. Qatar's our ally, and they did not retaliate.
Precisely. So they bombed them, right? They bombed them in Qatar, and that was very embarrassing for us because we had just struck a deal with them where we sold them a bunch of military equipment, blah blah blah. They had done a trade deal with us, so that made us look really bad. So Trump was pissed off, but the Israelis, you know how they do? They just do whatever they want. That scared the Middle East. That scared these Gulf states because they understand that our safety is contingent upon the United States. If these guys can't take care of these Israelis, our safety is at risk. So what did Saudi Arabia do? They quietly went and struck a deal with Pakistan, where if Saudi Arabia is attacked, it's like an attack on Pakistan, and Pakistan's a nuclear power. So this is what, when people get mad at me and say, oh, Myron, all you care about is Israel, blah, blah, blah. Bro, Israel creates so many problems for us that you might not even notice because now we pushed Saudi Arabia closer to the Pakistanis and in that BRICS sphere. And that's kind of what's happening. Like the US dollar, SWIFT, our financial hegemon in the world is being challenged now, and Israel's not helping it, if that makes sense. I threw a lot out there, bro. I know your audience might be confused by what I'm saying.
That's good. Yeah, the BRICS aspect of this I wasn't aware of, so that's good information that I needed to research on. Yeah. Especially because I want to debate Matt Walsh on this. He was anti-interventionist, and then now he's pro-interventionist.
Yeah.
And look, you see him on Twitter. He's been attacking. He's been going at me for weeks all the time. So I'm like, let's just debate. Let's just, because this is how many. Okay, what do you think about this regime change? Is this gonna not only because you said the financial? Wait, you didn't spell out. So why is this gonna fail?
Why is this okay? The reason why it's gonna fail is because the thing that's been challenging the U.S. dollar all this time is BRICS. And what the BRICS nations have been trying to do is they're trying to get other countries to join, saying, look, the United States is, they're a declining empire, they're getting weaker. If we're gonna go ahead, because the thing is that the United States, this is how the United States plays games. If you don't do what we say, we sanction you. We cripple your economy, we hurt your ability to earn revenue, we tell other countries not to work with you, we destroy you economically, right? And we destabilize your country. We run coups, all this other shit. So all these countries are like, yo, why do we let the United States have all this power off of their currency? Let's stand up, make our own currency where we're not subject to the authority of the United States, and come join us. Now, a lot of countries are kind of scared because, like, well, the United States is strong and NATO and everything. So us doing what we did with Venezuela, now Putin and Xi Jinping are vindicated. See, I told y'all these guys are fucking bullies. I told y'all they don't give a shit about y'all. I told you that the U.S. dollar is flying.
Doesn't Putin bully Ukraine the same way, and doesn't Xi Jinping bully Taiwan the same way that we're bullying Venezuela?
Well, here's the thing: we just lost our moral high ground.
Okay.
Because remember when we tried to condemn Putin and sanction the hell out of him and said you can't do this and invade another country's sovereignty or whatever. We just forfeited our moral high ground.
Right.
It's gone. Right.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, like, in the future, this is gonna hurt us. Like in the short term, yeah, we get oil. Woo, gas prices.
So what countries are going to follow BRICS now instead of the petrodollar?
I mean, countries that are kind of in the middle, like countries that aren't really sure, like
Cuba, Colombia. You see the countries
these are countries that don't like us anyway. They're adversaries of ours, so they're going to probably align more with the BRICS nations. But the Muslim world, definitely, right? They're going to be more susceptible.
So Qatar is upset about this.
About us invading Venezuela?
Yes.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know what their particular.
Yeah, because I'm trying to see whose mind has changed after this.
Well, the thing is that they're not going to put it out publicly like that because they want to be able to play both sides politically. You get what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of these countries like to kind of, like the Saudis are notorious for this, kind of double dipping, being nice to both sides, based on, because there's no such thing as alliances. There's just aligned interests. So like, as long as our interests are aligned, we are an alliance. But once interests are no longer aligned, we're gonna go ahead and do what we need to do. And that's what's going on with the Saudis. That's why they kind of pulled out the Petro Dollar thing, because they're like, yo, you know, BRICS seems to be up and coming. We don't like how the United States kind of, you know, because the United States bullies people, bro, like really badly in the international community. Like us as Americans, we're not familiar with it, or we might not understand the extent to it. But the United States bullies a lot of countries if they don't get in line with what we want, with sanctions, coups, you know, backing militia groups that destabilize their governments. Like we've done a lot of fucked up shit, to be honest. So us invading Venezuela, we have vindicated all of our critics that call us hypocrites.
Okay, and then so how long until the chat saying Latin America is they're not going to follow the petrodollar and they see how the United States became a bully? How long until this fails and we see the results of this failure?
Well, so the United States and Saudi Arabia Saudi Arabia decided June of 2024 not to honor the petrodollar agreement. So that was almost 2 years ago now. Yeah, I mean, I would say within the next couple of years we're going to see developments and we're going to see things happen. Like I did not expect for something to happen this quickly. I knew something was going to happen, but
not this quickly.
Not this
and
quickly,
then how effective do you think that extracting the oil is going to be? I saw Trump post on Truth Social today that the interim leaders in Venezuela, they've allowed 30 to 50 million barrels. Is that easy to transport? Like how are the soldiers, you know, you have to bring some troops in there to get it. There's going to be some rogue military groups in Venezuela against this for sure, right?
Yeah, there might be some rogue groups. I mean, the thing is that keep in mind that like if that oil becomes available, that doesn't necessarily mean they need to ship it here. Does that make sense? Like if we're in control of it, right, the price is going to go down.
So we can just leave it there.
We can leave it there, yeah. Like,
but they have to have troops protecting it, right? You have to station military has to go into Venezuela. Now there's going to be they're saying the war's over, but troops need to go to Venezuela, correct?
Well, you're bringing up a good point, and this is like, you know, this is exactly what it was like with Iraq, right? Like we invade, we show our military might, and then it's like, okay, we got to deal with this now. Oh shit, fuck, okay, like damn, we got to.
It's super fucking expensive.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly what happened last time. It's like you do this crazy operation, you show that your might. It's like, yeah, we own this now. It's like, all right, what are we gonna do? And you're like, oh shit, we gotta clean up and have responsibility over this. Fuck. So
right.
Yeah.
So is this textbook regime change? Because to me it looks identical to Iraq, Libya, Syria. Is this not the same pattern that we've seen time and time again over the past 20 years?
100%, bro. Yeah, I mean, this was all about regime change, and they needed two things. They needed access to the resources and a regime that's going to be friendly when we access those resources. This arrest warrant was conveniently able to allow them to effectuate what they wanted.
I think everybody knows that. If I were to debate Matt Walsh, I don't think that he would argue the moral legitimacy of this.
And make sure you tell him, bro, like when you debate him, dude, you can barely get fucking $1,000 to go cross country to go pick up a target, right? Like I used to work with the DA. They're extremely cheap when it comes to travel funding to go pick up targets in another area. You'll get a guy in LA, your main target's in LA, you arrested all of his cell in fucking Tennessee. You want to fly to LA to catch your guy. Oh yeah, only you can travel maybe. Or you just let another agent over there pick him up and then you can meet him there later. Like the government is very stingy when it comes to resource on stuff. So the fact that they went ahead and mobilized hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to do this operation, moving all these military assets all over the place, that goes to show that this was an extraordinary event to pick up a drug trafficker. That's kind of unorthodox. Never happens that way, ever.
Right, and that's just going to tack on to the $38 trillion of debt that we already have.
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, you know. But the thing is, so the other thing also, like with this whole debt thing, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So you're always going to be in debt if you're the reserve currency, if that makes sense. It's called the
So the debt doesn't really matter? It's just
as long
so it's all fake. It's all fake.
The debt doesn't matter if you're the reserve currency. It's called the Triffin effect. Let me look this up. Triffin or Trifflin effect, you can look it up. But basically...
Is the U.S. dollar the reserve currency?
Yeah, it is. It's the world's reserve currency. It's called the Triffin
because of what? Based on what is the world's reserve currency?
Based on oil and our military strength. And there's a bunch of different factors going into it. It has to have rule of law, has to be a strong government, has to have,
force.
It has to be backed by something. Yeah, it's backed by force and oil. But yeah, it's called the Triffin dilemma. So basically, there's going to be inherent conflict for a country with a global reserve currency status like the U.S. dollar to supply enough currency without being in debt. So that's nothing. The only reason why we're able to maintain this, $37 trillion in debt is because we're the reserve currency. So if we lose reserve currency status, we're cooked. So now you see why the United States is fighting so valiantly to make sure that we, have resources secured and maintain the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And then another interesting fact that I was like looking into today, the reason why we want Greenland is because Greenland makes a certain metal. I gotta get the fucking name of it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's used for the fighter jets that don't overheat. So that's another reason why we want that. And who produces that metal and controls the majority of it right now? China. So our fighter jets operate on a precious metal that China has control over. So that's why people want to take over Greenland. So it all comes down, anytime you look at why we do the things we do, it always comes down to maintaining leverage and power to some degree.
Okay. So at the beginning you said that you were kind of on the fence about, not on the fence, but you weren't pro, or I'm trying to figure out why you said that.
Well, what I said was, in the short term we're going to benefit, but in the long term we're absolutely going to pay for this later on.
How are we going to see the benefits short term?
So short term, stocks are going to go up. We're going to, oil prices will, the fact that we're running on reserves, right? And now we have control of this oil. Now we have more oil, right? So our reserves are going to go up. Prices are probably going to stay stable, if not go down a little bit. Stock market will go up a little bit. So we are going to see some short-term gains here. And also, this is a very strong demonstration of force as well, right? To scare some countries off. But the thing is, what we've basically done is you're not putting a gun to someone's head and saying, you better fucking listen. Yeah, they're going to listen, but once they get the opportunity to get out the fucking house, they will if they can, right? So what'll happen is a lot of the people that are supposed to be partners with us are going to feel more like hostages. So, and they're going to keep this in the back of their mind oh shit, look, the United States is willing to use force to acquire resources. I thought these guys were the moral high ground, moral police. So we've lost credibility in the international community, long term. Absolutely lost credibility in the international community.
We forfeited any moral argument.
Yeah, we cannot talk shit to Putin no more. Absolutely not. And you can even make the argument, right? When it comes to Russia, for example, right, invading Ukraine, that he had been talking about and telling NATO not to expand, right? And they kept expanding, right? That's like a national security risk for them. When it comes to Maduro, though he might have not posed the same military threat, he was posing a great economic threat, right? Which then again, you can say, Monroe Doctrine, it's our hemisphere, we're going to do what we need to do. I think they could have settled this diplomatically. I think diplomacy would have been a better way to do things versus just invading. Maduro did say he wanted to talk to he would be willing to sit down and talk with Trump. But I think the reality is, Maduro probably wanted to sell his oil at a certain price, at a market price, and Trump said, fuck that, why am I going to pay you this? Why don't I just get you out of there? You're indicted in my country anyway, and we can get it for damn near free. That's how he looked at it.
Someone in the super chat said all Trump did was just reinstall payment contracts he terminated in 2025. Venezuela gives U.S. 50 billion barrels of oil to pay off its debt. What was the payment contract he terminated in 25?
I didn't hear about that.
Okay.
I don't know. That's something that I'm not familiar with. I mean, he could be right. I'm just not familiar with that. But
and you sure we're going to see short-term benefits? You don't think that there's going to be conflict, that there's going to be a coup? You don't think Venezuela's going to be fighting back? We're going to have to deploy troops, and there's going to be a messy. You don't think there's going to be a messy warfare?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be a power vacuum in Venezuela to some degree, and that's going to create problems. But I'm saying, for the United States, we will enjoy some level of prosperity in the short term. But in the long term, I think we've really hurt ourselves, especially with the international community, because a lot of Americans have to accept the fact that we live in a multipolar world. This isn't post-World War II where we were the only people with a nuclear bomb, or other countries have nuclear weapons. Other countries have very capable militaries and intelligence services. So we are not the pinnacle of power to the same degree that we were after World War II. A lot of these countries have closed the gap to us, right? So I don't like that we. I think we could have solved this in another manner. I think we could have figured out how to deal with this a bit more amicably than the way that we did. But you look at it with the Monroe Doctrine, Maduro's hard-headed, blah blah blah. But I absolutely think that we've forfeited our moral high ground, and we can't tell anybody shit anymore. Honestly.
What about all these Zionists and people like Netanyahu? They're very excited about what happened. They're very happy publicly. How much involvement do they have in this regime change?
I have no doubt in my mind that Israel definitely played a role. We know that Maduro did not recognize the state of Israel as a sovereign nation. We know that he was very sensitive to the Palestinians' plight. He banned usury, right? So he was not a fan of Israel whatsoever. And the United States having access to this oil is huge for them because our oil is basically their oil. You know, our resources are their resources. So, you know, and they're gearing up to fight with Iran. So, like, they need all the resources they can get. So this is a huge W for them because we've removed one of the trump cards that Iran had, which is what we discussed with the Strait of Hormuz, right? Or at least it's not going to be as damaging to our economies because we got Venezuela under control now. So if they do shut down the Strait of Hormuz, it's going to suck, but it's not going to affect us as badly.
Right. We have a response to that major chess move that was blocking the. Now there's an opening to attack Iran.
Yep. Basically, because the thing is this: when Israel attacks Iran, they're gonna hit Israel back super hard, right? What we're basically doing is trying to mitigate the damage from when they do hit us back, or what hit them back hard.
So why are all the right-wing people that were anti-war now? Like, why is everybody so excited about this?
Probably lack of awareness on why we actually did it. They probably don't know about the petroleum reserves. I haven't seen any of them talk about the petroleum reserves, the Petro Dollar being on life support. I haven't seen any of these guys talk about any of that stuff. And that's the thing too with like a lot of these guys. Like, dude, I hate to like these guys are like Daily Wire and like a lot of these like conservative creators. They don't really talk foreign policy like that, or they don't have foreign policy understood. They only care about like culture war, domestic issues. Like if
Matt Walsh doesn't know anything. I think that's why he's avoiding. I mean, me too. Like I'm asking, I'm clarifying questions here that people are like, oh my god, how'd you not know that? Some of this I'm making sure that I have this ready.
Lot, bro. It's a lot. I don't blame you. Like like foreign policy and geopolitical affairs is completely different than dealing with like American politics. It's like its own animal. Like dealing with it, like talking about this stuff. And I haven't seen. And the crazy thing is like I haven't seen any of like the big right-wing political commentators mention the reserves, the death of Petro Dollar.
I don't know if you said this already, but why is the Petro Dollar on life support?
Because
you already said this.
Yeah. So the reason why is because the Saudis are not doing all of their transactions in U.S. dollars anymore for their oil like they used to.
They're using the Chinese. They're using the yuan.
They're using the yuan.
And why did the Saudis change?
They're realizing that we're now in a multipolar world. They're waking up and realizing like there's other superpowers besides the United States.
Okay.
That's why they went to Pakistan for their protection. They still have a deal with us, but like they also have a backup with Pakistan.
Who?
Saudi Arabia.
Okay. And all right.
Yeah, it's a lot, bro. I like, I don't mind like explaining it again, because it's a lot.
I think. Do you think it's a simple? No, I'm just thinking about the arguments from the other side, from the tradcons who are super excited. They're all anti-war, and like everyone was shitting on the Iraq War, and then would make the same mistake, and it just seems like the same pattern. Do you think that this ignited some sort of nationalism that's been missing from the white identity crowd, from the white Christians? They've been lacking some sort of like something to get them riled up. They see something like this, the helicopters, Trump. Yeah, we can do what we want. Do you think that their nationalism is blinding them from the truth?
Yeah, you can make that argument. Yeah.
That is correct. The media is doing whatever they can to divide us, to bring another George Floyd 2.0, especially in Minneapolis, which I made a video on. This is why it's all connected.
Because, okay, the military operation, the way they did it, outside of your personal opinions with whether it was good or bad, was fantastic. They got in within a few hours, no casualties. It's like, they did.
I mean, like 20, 30 Cubans died, and they're saying, okay, that was Maduro's security support.
I'm speaking strictly from a military analysis perspective with no bias. If you're that was probably one of the best done military operations, seamlessly, no casualties on your end, casualties on the other end. It's nothing. It can't go better than that from a military analysis standpoint. A lot of people are fixated on that, and they're not focusing on what's going to come after this. It's a very short-sighted worldview. Like, yeah, cool. We got in there. We got them out in 3 hours. America, cool. But we are going to pay for this later. Make no mistake about it. We are going to pay for this. And like, this is where people need to be a little bit higher IQ and understand that intervention always comes with some type of reaction. And in today's day and age, where we live in a multipolar world, there are other countries that can make us eat it and feel pain for that, unfortunately.
Right. There's never been a regime change that went without consequences, major consequences, and almost zero benefit.
Precisely. And we absolutely pushed countries towards BRICS with this operation. No doubt in my mind. We definitely pushed, and our influence is going to wane and that's one of the most important things. You don't have to just have military power and strength. You also have to have the ability of influence. And I think we did hurt our credibility here. And I don't think people are really paying attention to how this can hurt us in the future. Our adversaries are going to use this to their advantage every single time.
What do you think Venezuela is going to do now?
I don't know, dude, because the Trump administration doesn't even know what the fuck's like. They didn't even give a plan on what's going. Yeah, we're gonna run it. Okay, how are you gonna run it? You know, it's like they did the operation. You know, it looks cool, and it's like no one is gonna explain how the fuck you guys are gonna clean up or make any of this. Like I'm lost here. So you know, there's obviously gonna be a power vacuum. I'm sure there's gonna be some riots and crazy stuff going on. But we'll see.
And there you have it. So we will find out. We just gotta stay tuned. You can stay tuned on my channel, and I will be posting these on YouTube and Rumble. Sorry if I was dozing off. It's been a long day. If you found this video helpful, please sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications, hit the little bell on there to never miss a video. Remember, this will be on YouTube and Rumble. You are the resistance. XYBERJAE out. Like, comment, follow, reshare, subscribe.